Picture a glass control panel full of buttons and levers. Each lever moves part of a machine. Open a valve, power a motor, unlock a hatch. Now imagine those levers are spread across a factory floor, some in the control room, some in a locked workshop, and some out on the loading dock. Only certain operators have keys to certain cabinets. Some levers accept only certified plugs. Some require 2 people to operate at once. That physical setup is a surprisingly accurate stand-in for how trust is enforced in software. There are interfaces, privileges, and mechanisms that gate actions. In this episode, we're going to pull back the curtain and look at the concrete mechanics of trust boundaries, the places you actually enforce trust, APIs, inter-process communication, file systems and permissions, containers and VMs, and the kernel's own system call gate. If the previous videos told you where the walls are, this one tells you what the doors look like, what locks they use, and how to make them harder to pick. Let's start with APIs, because they're the most obvious. An API, whether it's a REST endpoint, a gRPC method, or a function call across a library boundary, is a formal interface. It's a contract. You send a request with some shape, and the callee promises some behavior in return. That promise is a trust boundary when the caller and callee operate under different assumptions or privileges. For example, external users call your upload API. Your backend calls an internal process job API. Those are different trust zones. The API is where you enforce identity, who is calling, integrity, is the request intact, and intent, is the caller allowed to do this. Mechanically, enforcement at an API commonly involves 3 layers: authentication, authorization, and validation. Authentication answers who are you, tokens, certificates, OAuth flows. Authorization answers what are you allowed to do, role checks, scopes, policy evaluation. Validation answers is this request well formed, schemas, size limits, rate limits. Each layer is a physical lock. Skip any one of them, and you've weakened the gate. Next, inter-process boundaries. On a single machine, different processes are separated by the operating system. That separation is enforced with process IDs, user IDs, and permission checks. An HTTP daemon running as www-data should not be able to rewrite /etc/password. The OS enforces that by user and group permissions. But the devil is in the APIs that cross the process boundary. Sockets, pipes, message queues, shared memory. Each of those is a potential door. For example, a local Unix socket that accepts commands from any local process is a door that trusts the caller just because it's local. That trust assumption is fragile. Any compromised local process can walk right through. This brings us to file systems and permissions, a domain where trust mechanics have been refined for decades. File ownership, permissions bits, ACLs, and extended attributes are the primitive controls. More advanced systems layer mandatory access control on top. Think SE Linux or AppArmor, which allows fine-grained policies such as this process may only read that directory and may never execute code in uploads. File system semantics also create special case traps. Symbolic links, race conditions, and mounted file systems change the contract. For example, a piece of code that checks ownership and then writes a file may be susceptible to a time of check to time of use swap if an attacker can replace the file between steps. Containers and virtual machines are higher-level structural boundaries. A container is a sandbox. It gives you process isolation, namespace separation, and often a file system overlay. A VM gives you even stronger hardware-level separation. These containers are powerful because they bundle many low-level locks into one package. But each abstraction has trade-offs. Containers are lightweight, but often share the kernel with the host, so kernel vulnerabilities can break out. VMs are heavier, but give stronger isolation. The mechanical question is, what do you trust about the container image, about the host configuration, about the orchestration system? Trust here is a composition of many smaller controls: image signing, runtime seccomp filters, capabilities dropped, read-only file systems, and limited network policies. Now let's talk about the kernel's frontier, system calls. Every time a user space process asks the kernel to do something, open a file, create a socket, fork, mass protect, It crosses a fundamental boundary, unprivileged to privileged execution. System calls are the ultimate API and therefore a critical trust enforcement point. Modern OS systems offer ways to shrink the surface. Seccomp on Linux limits the allowed system calls. Capabilities split root privileges into smaller, grantable powers, and container runtimes apply seccomp profiles to severely limit what a compromised process can perform. Mechanically, limiting syscalls is like removing levers from a control panel. If the attacker doesn't have the lever, they can't pull it. Network boundaries are another mechanical category. Firewalls, security groups, and network ACLs control which nodes can talk to which. But networks have many layers: L2 switching rules, L3 routing, overlay networks, service meshes, and application layer gateways. Each layer is an enforcement point. A common failure is trusting low-level network isolation while ignoring application layer authentication. Attackers who breach the network can exploit this gap. Service meshes and API gateways attempt to harden these boundaries by enforcing mTLS, per-call identity, and policy checks close to the application logic. Identity and secrets management are cross-cutting mechanical systems. How do you prove identity at a boundary? Tokens, certificates, hardware-backed keys, and federated identity systems are all mechanical implementations of identity. Secrets managers and hardware security modules enforce who can access keys and under what conditions. Rotation, short-lived credentials, and ephemeral tokens reduce the window in which a stolen secret is useful. Mechanically, short-lived tokens are a way of shrinking an attacker's useful time. The key still exists, but it expires quickly. Logging, telemetry, and auditing, often treated as afterthoughts, are crucial enforcement mechanics because they turn boundaries into observable systems. Controls are most useful when you can see attempts to bypass them. Structured logs, distributed tracing with correlation IDs, and audit trails that are tamper-evident let you reconstruct crossing attempts and detect patterns. If you can't see an attacker probing a boundary, you can't respond. Let's pause and see the common design patterns that emerge from these mechanics. Layered enforcement. Authentication, authorization, validation, and rate limits stacked together make a more robust gate than any single control. Think of multiple locks on a door. Each adds friction and increases detection chance. Fail closed defaults. When a component cannot verify an assumption, it should deny, not accept. Fail open is convenient, but it invites misuse. Least privilege everywhere. Reduce the set of allowed actions at each boundary. Fewer allowed syscalls, smaller filesystem mounts, narrower network egress. Minimize trust scope. Prefer narrow capabilities over broad root-like privileges. Bind tokens to explicit audiences and short lifetimes. Make crossings observable. Instrument and log. Alerts make enforcement actionable. Now for a few common mechanical pitfalls to watch for. First, implicit local trust. Services often leave admin endpoints bound to 0.0.0 inside a cluster, assuming that network isolation prevents abuse. If network policies change or a pod is compromised, those endpoints become wide open. Second, overprivileged containers. Many images run as root by default. That habit expands the potential damage of a breakout. Third, ad hoc secrets in plain text or baked into images. Mechanical convenience that leads to long-lived keys attackers love. What practical steps can engineers take tomorrow? Apply defense in depth. Use API gateways for authentication, sidecars for mutual TLS, and RBAC in the application for fine-grained checks. Constrain syscalls with seccomp or equivalent. Remove unnecessary capabilities from containers. Run services with non-root users and read-only file stibs where possible. Use signed images and immutable infrastructure to reduce drift. Employ short-lived credentials and secrets engines instead of static keys. Instrument every boundary, structured logs, metrics, and sampling traces. Make it easy to answer who crossed this boundary and when. Automate policy checks in CI to prevent accidental expansion of privileges or exposure. To conclude, trust boundaries are not mystical. They are mechanical. Each boundary is enforced with real, parcelable controls, APIs, sockets, permissions, syscalls, network policies, tokens, and logs. The better you know those controls, the more deliberately you can place and harden your doors. Security is not about odd magic spells. It's about designing the right levers, locks, and sensors, and then refusing to assume they'll work unless you enforce and observe them.